よし、シークレットハウス against the world みんなよこそ。今回はサバと No ID のアルバムなんだっけ
名前が忘れたか。
From the private collection of サバと No ID ですね。We're not fucking around. Yo, welcome back to Secret House against. We got Mega, we got Jet, we got me, and today we'll be talking about Saba's album, collab album with No ID, from the private collection. Shit, I gotta pull up my notes real quick.
15 songs, 41 minutes. It dropped on March 18th.
Yes, very early, very fresh. Before we get into it, shout out Caltrops Press, Noname Book Club, Extraordinary Rap Podcast, Rap Plug Music Podcast.
Wrong way. Rap Music Plug Podcast.
My fault, guys. All right, and yeah, you know how it is: abstract, avant-garde, experimental, hip-hop album discussions. We out here, we doing the thing, right?
That's right. Yeah. We're making Des do all the work today because we can.
Yeah. So
No, I kind of like it. I like not you don't realize how much work goes into preparing the opening. It's not just getting the information. You want to know over the past albums, what are the things, and it's good. Today I don't even have notes. I'm just like,
I get just straight kick back all that.
Lovely.
Yeah. So yeah, but the album came out pretty recently. It's been very
about a week since it came out.
Yeah. People have been waiting for it for a long time, and to be honest, it was actually probably going to be delayed even further. But the problem was there's like a Janet Jackson sample on one of the songs, Breakdown specifically.
The second one,
Yeah, and the sample got cleared, and then they released the album. Before that, they were just going to sit on it, which is fucking cool. And yeah, sampling is rough, man. Copyright is a bitch. But yo,
when you're an artist at this level especially.
Yeah.
So what we normally like to do when we're reviewing an artist for the first time on the show is, we just talk about whether or not we know the artist and how we became familiar with them. And I happen to know for a fact that Desi, you are a pretty big Saba fan, right?
Yeah. I'd say Saba is a big part of my I guess my sound palette in a way. I listened to a lot of his music. I got put onto it during the album Bucket List Project, and then I went back and listened to Comfort Zone, all that. I got really into it. Care For Me is one of my favorite albums of all time. So yeah, I'm pretty tapped in with Saba. He's a big influence on my sound. What about you guys?
I mean, I guess I'm like a casual fan. I guess I also got put on around Bucket List. That was probably my boy Kamau who put me on. Big love to Kamau. Hope he's doing well out in LA.
Shout out Kamau.
Of course, I'm waiting for that Ghetto Sage album as well.
Oh yeah, one of these days.
Big up Smino. Shouts out to Noname, friend of the show.
Shout out.
So I'm a fan. I'm not like a huge hardcore fan in the way that a lot of my friends are, but I think Saba's mad dope. I think he's one of those artists who is like a part of the vanguard of real artistry and making experimental and interesting and just very enjoyable music in that kind of mainstream periphery area that you have, where it's like, it's not a Kendrick Lamar or a J. Cole or a Drake or whatever, but it's
like
the same
a Rhapsody
time, it's like
level
a Rhapsody,
kind of between.
No names, Smino, Amine,
absolutely.
dope artists who are right there.
They're doing dope shit.
People who like hip hop like these artists, because they're fucking ill.
And they're also grassroots kind of artists who have grown their
organic,
their art, not necessarily on the same platforms or through the same kind of lanes as a lot of mainstream artists.
True.
But for me, I've known Saba. I think I really got into Saba when Care For Me dropped. That might have been like the real kind of first time I paid attention. I maybe heard some songs before or something like that, but I was a huge fan of Care For Me. That was my favorite album of his for quite a long time. And even when a few good things.
Yeah.
When Few Good Things dropped, I thought it was great. There was a few songs on there, a couple skippables for me, but even one of those songs made it onto my top 10 songs of the year list.
The one for Rebe?
I think it's a Crazy Bone one. I like the Crazy Bone joint a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, that one, and also the circus joint. Saba for me is just an incredibly talented artist, and a bit different than a lot of the work that we review on this channel.
Yes.
Right.
Our review channel tends to skew towards more the experimental kind of weird underground scene that has its own kind of ecosystem. And like Jet was saying earlier, Saba exists beyond, like, kind of above that and more towards maybe like, I like to think of it sometimes as like, this is an artist that could break out and win a Grammy type of artist, like you know, a Noname, a Rhapsody, you know, a Saba,
and this is no idea in production as well. I mean, this is, you know,
of course,
a legend of the game, someone who, you know, mentored some of the all-time, you know, biggest artists, Kanye, J. Cole. So
I don't think we even need to talk about how we know No ID. Like, I mean,
just Chicago legend, honestly, you know, just
a legend in hip hop, and perhaps it's a good time to just make note that he perhaps doesn't get the same type of accolades as he should. But, you know, a fucking incredible list of phenomenal art and influence. You know, one of the things that I've seen happening around the discussion of this album are people are hearkening back to a lot of these other eras of sound and such, and they're like, well, yeah, you know, it reminds you of Kanye because No ID kind of influenced the Kanye sound that gets all the credit for. I don't know the lore. I don't know the. I didn't brush up on it.
Deep,
but yeah, you know, No ID is absolutely incredible. And I don't know, like I definitely believe that No ID deserves flowers, but it's really just great to see them working together. And the project actually came out a bit better than I was hoping, because I, as big a fan as I am of No ID, I can't really say that I've loved a lot of things over the last decade. The Jay-Z project was pretty good for Jay-Z project, but as people know, I've kind of been tapped out of that dimension of listening for a while, and I thought it was a good, like, okay, here's Jay-Z, it's great, the beats are good, but nothing really blew my hair back like perhaps this one does.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head about like the whole production. Probably gonna go back to that in a bit, but I just want to talk about Saba a little bit. To me personally, Saba, I feel like he is he's the modern MC in the sense that he's authentic. His lyrics kind of resonate with the majority of his fan base. He's you know, he's relatable, and his lyrics are not like forced. He's lyrical, but not in a forced way, you know? And another thing that I think sets him apart and makes him a modern MC in my eyes is the fact that he is almost entirely self-produced, you know? He produces his own work, and I think the modern MC or even singer artist in general nowadays has to do more than just write lyrics and perform their art. I think it has to go beyond that. And to me, that's why you have artists like even in the same like camp as him, you know, Smino also produces some of his own stuff. You know, if you think about like certain artists and stuff, if they produce it, it's like, okay, you can feel that they've like made a texture, a palette of like what their art is, and you can see this all over the album. Even with No ID's production, it feels like a Saba joint.
It feels like a Saba
exactly
album, very much so.
And that's why it's so nice that you mentioned about No ID, some of his stuff being hit or miss, because you can see the kind of direct contrast between, you know, an album where it's a collab album with a rapper who's just rapping, and then one where the artist that's rapping is fully involved or probably very involved in the production, you know?
I mean,
and it shows.
You know, maybe I'm reading too far into this, but I think the title is kind of a hint towards that, you know, from the private collection of Saba and No ID. It immediately evokes this image of like a curated art collection, right? And this is clearly something that has been curated by the artist as a means to be like, well, okay, even if I'm not making these specific beats, this is the specific sound, this is the specific atmosphere, you know, the sequencing, etc. This is all what I'm working towards as a project. And as a whole cohesive work, I think this album is excellent in that respect.
Right. The very clear nuance in kind of back and forth play between the way that the rhyming is happening and the production is involved, you can clearly tell that this was not like, here's some beats, just rap to them, but it went beyond that into them both being very involved in the creation of this project. Whereas you'll get a lot of projects where it's just like, oh yeah, this is a project because, you know, Kenny Siegel sent me I'm just saying a producer name. You know, somebody sent me a bunch of beats and I rapped over them and made songs. But this, there's, and I don't know about it. Maybe it was just Saba being like, oh, I could do this here and that, and maybe he's just the one. But it does feel like a true collaborative project. And like you were saying about Saba being a like kind of a phenomenal example of like a modern MC, I agree with you highly. But you know, like, but one of the things that I think stands out is actually the thing that makes him feel like a very modern MC and not somebody that's just like experimental, because Woods is a modern MC.
Sure.
Like you know, Prim and all these other people we do are modern MCs, but his ability to kind of straddle that line between being rapidy rap, being melodic, being insightful, and being fun are things that I think a lot of other artists have a difficult time accomplishing. You know, I mentioned like Rhapsody earlier. Rhapsody can do that too, but these songs I feel as though they have a kind of a bigger crossover potential to be like one of those that explode. And I think that artists like JID and Saba are truly some of the best examples of the direction that I'd like to see hip hop travel in terms of how the mainstream follows.
Absolutely.
Like, of course, Kendrick is a great example of some things and does his part and does it very well. But when I listen to Saba, I love the fact that he comes from, there's a lot of, I'm not from Chicago at all. I've never ever been even that far in the Midwest. I'm a West Coast guy and East Coast guy, and I've lived in the South a little bit. But when I listen to him talk about it, he talks about his lived experience as a black man in the United States as a civilian. But it's not soft. He's not a punk. He's not, you know, a square. He's a cat that was living. He's got homies that are dead. He's got homies that did. And that's kind of my experience too. I lived, you know, I wasn't out there being super crazy. Of course, probably a little bit more reckless than Saba. But when I listen to him, there's every single aspect of the way he expresses himself and he feels about things is something that I can connect to, and I think that is also a positive and not an antisocial message like some of the other contemporaries and his shit. Like, he don't even be like really on some like, here's the smoker track, you know, all I'm gonna do is just smoking. You know, there's
Here's
always
the one
this,
for the ladies. Here's the one that
he's very, very insightful, and he can take something like he does on this album, take something that seems like a very simple, easy concept, like a head wrap or the big picture, and fucking bomb lyrically like a battle rapper, even with the wordplay, the allusions, and all of the poetic devices. I mean, and he manages to do that in an extremely accessible way that is so melodic and catchy. You don't even realize that you're hearing some of the best like sculpted bars. You know what I mean? Not even Kendrick really does it like that.
I agree.
You know, those are like battle rapper levels of weaving these thoughts together and putting, you know, it's crazy.
His pen has been trialed and tested, and he's come out on top, man. Like he used to, I think, go to a writing thing back in the day in Chicago with like even people like Chance. Like, they used to have like, you know, these kind of open mic things, and they'd all kind of like go bar for bar and stuff like that. So he's, you know, tried and true. And I think just Chicago is just another level. I really haven't found a single artist from Chicago that I don't like, you know. There's so many talented artists from there, singers and rappers. But just to think of a couple of rappers, man, just thinking like some people like Noname, Smino, Mick Jenkins. You got even like BJ's Chicago Kid. He's more of a singer, but still,
he's on here,
But still, like you have these fucking super dope Chicago artists. Like they just, it's just another level, and I really fuck with that.
Shout out to Chicago. I mean, like in terms of like their contribution to the history of black culture, you know, they're you know, the Black Panthers, and I think that a lot of those like precious elements of black culture in the United States are crystallized in a certain approach that a lot of these Chicago artists have. Even when you go back to the earlier Chicago artists like Common and his work with No ID, for example. Common was on some of this basically the same type of thing. He was crafting really interesting, intelligent bars about his experience that highlight being black and what it's like to live in a city like this, but also pushing that shit, you know what I mean, pushing that shit elsewhere and above for hip hop culture. And man, this album is it's incredible. I've seen people saying that clearly my album of the year, even though this doesn't really like, I let my wife has listened to this album. I can't say that about no Dose One. You know what I mean? Like, my wife has listened to this album. It's just really, really good. And whereas like Care for Me was a bit about like, you know, trauma and experience as a young person, and then there was like a few things, there's like a kind of more interpersonal type of level going on there. I feel like this album is like Saba being like, You know who could fucking rap? Me. You know who's like a legend in producing rap? No ID.
Yeah.
It almost like when I saw it, the title to me was just like, oh, maybe these are extras. You know what I mean? Maybe these are just like joints that they put together, and this is not a fully realized project. This is just something to keep them, don't forget, like, I'm coming, but here's something for y'all. Because the singles that came out earlier, I was like,
you know what?
okay.
It's funny you say that as well.
But I don't,
It's because actually this album was supposed to come out in 2023. They released the single at that time. The single was what was it called? Back in Office.
Okay,
Back in
right,
Office.
right.
So at that time, Saba and No ID had the collab album, and maybe at that point it may have been something like, yeah, here's a little something, keep y'all warm. I'm gonna be releasing some other stuff, but then it got reworked. They scrapped the whole album and rebuilt it. I don't know if they took parts from what they had or just started completely fresh. And he did that on A Few Good Things as well. He did that. I think he did an interview and he was like, yeah, over the 4 years between Care For Me and the time A Few Good Things came out, I was constantly deleting and building and scrapping over and over because he wants his like album or his music to feel like where he's at. Now I kind of subscribe to that like notion of thinking if I'm working on music, I want it to be like where I'm at right now.
Immediacy, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what the album was like in the prior form, but yeah, what we got now is probably the most authentic and most in tune with what they had in mind, right?
Word.
So yeah, maybe it did start out like that though, So
Yeah, like my first listen, I was listening to it one night and it was like rainy and shit, and I was just like, this sounds like, I was like, I don't know, something about it wasn't clicking for me. But when the sun came out, like it's spring, and I was listening to it, I was like, I think I don't like the first track. I'm just going to be very clear about it. I think I don't really care for the first track.
Okay,
I don't care how they take that refrain of a classic song and kind of flip it. It doesn't do anything for me. It sounds great. The rapping's good on it, but that's the only song on the album that I'm just kind of
I feel the
like,
same way.
Whatever about.
Yeah, I can understand.
Breakdown was great. Crash is great. And then I think the time where it really, really was like, oh my God, this is incredible is West Side Bound Part 4.
Of course.
Then I was like, is this the best song that I've heard ever?
Yeah.
This is amazing the way that it comes together.
As soon as I saw West Side Bound Part 4, I was like, let's fucking go, nigga. Like, bro, West Side Bound 3, that shit, that was my shit. Even West Side Bound 1, that is my shit too. But I gotta say, West Side Bound 3 has a special place in my I like to call it youth or whatever, when I was a little younger back in the day, like university and shit. Like that was my shit, And I'm in a part of the city that they don't be talking, like that shit like carried me,
Yeah.
So to hear West Side Bound Part 4, and of course as soon as you hear like the horns, you're like, okay, you hear horns like that, you're like, yeah, this is gonna go crazy. And then he just starts bombing.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the halfway point and the beat switches.
Yeah.
Bro, bro said, I had
it goes with like the vocal.
Bro
It's
said,
crazy.
I had no dollars like Spotify. I'm like, true.
Yeah.
Spotify.
Well,
Fuck Spotify.
He said, let me take you back to my mama's side. We ain't have a penny like Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
My cousin Reese just made, there ain't a rap nigga that I idolize, bro. And like, I really fuck with that line right there where he says, there ain't a rap nigga I idolize. Even on the first song, on his verse, the first part of his verse, what does he say? He says, shit.
I think my bar was from Breakdown, not from West Side Bound. The
West Side
Spotify
Bound?
line.
No, West Side.
The Spotify bar that I just said.
No, it is from West Side Bound.
Okay, I thought I have it here written under Breakdown.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I only wrote notes about one song really. So.
Oh yeah, he starts his verse with like, "I seen all my heroes become human. I hope that you can recognize. Although I live a wild dream, like I'm not God." But that first part right there, heroes become human. To so many people, these rappers, these people that they listen to, they are just heroes. They're just idols. They're people that probably realistically they'll probably meet once or twice at like a live show maybe. But for him, they are just regular people. And I really subscribe to this notion because I think it's really hard for hip-hop fans to sometimes separate the difference between, an artist and like almost like a god. It feels like, there's no middle ground.
Fandom in general.
Exactly. Fandom is like, that's the thing I'm trying to get at. Fandom is difficult.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, like, when I saw Raphael Sadiq was on this album, I was like, yo, Raphael Sadiq, that man's like a god. Yeah. Rest in peace, Dwayne Wiggins. Like, Tony, like, are you crazy? Like, but, like, being able to have this album does a really good job of bridging
Yeah.
the old school and the modern as
I mean,
well.
you got
like,
Kelly Rowland on the same
Kelly
track,
Rowland on the
right?
same
That
track.
neo
yeah.
soul
The neo
element
soul
of it, and
element.
Yeah.
kind of that 2010s type of Chicago bounce on
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
as well as some of the more conventional kind of like early mid 2000s kind of I guess you could call it Kanye-esque soulful joints.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And I'm put the quotes up for the Kanye part because obviously that's not just him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does kind of bounce through those eras and does such a good job at it. But the writing on this shit is incredible. Yeah, I would say that I've listened to the album about 8 or 9 times, but if I'm honest, that every time it gets to this song, I kind of just repeat it for like an hour. Yeah,
For me, it's
I
the last
fucking
two
love it, man.
songs. The last 2 songs for me, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much my point. Is that people just the way they consume art, specifically hip hop, even, it's just there's no level for nuanced discussion. It just becomes
Sure.
abstracted, and I really dislike that thing about fandom in general. To be honest, it gets
Sure.
just what's the word, minimalized almost. Like it just kind of gets broken down,
Reductionist, yeah, yeah.
reduced to the point where it's just like this mid, this good. It's like, bro, you can't have a discussion about someone's art that they created like
Yeah.
that. You can't just be like, yo, this shit is mid, bro. Like give
We
me
had
something
that
else to
problem
fucking
the
work
first
with.
year of Secret House. The first year of Secret House, we had a lot of those
Yeah.
type of conversations, and it's
So-
something that Jed and I think, and now you as well, have tried to work on. It's like even if I didn't like this album and I didn't want to go back to it, I would still have the same things to say about Saba because there's when you listen to him, you cannot deny certain things that he's doing, even if it's not in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intricate and special, thoughtful, amazing elements of it. Like, and that's another thing about the album too. That at this point, I kind of wish that I would have made more notes because the songs are not just good songs that are rapping. There's a
Yeah.
lot of really interesting things to discuss about his experience, like Woes of the World.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to say about political elements and things of that nature there, and also just to give another critique about it, I was kind of hoping that just because the proximity to Noname, who for my dollar is the most outspoken socialist, Pan-African black socialist in hip-hop right now, just because of that proximity, I was hoping for a little bit more of a pointed critique on those type of
Yeah.
things. But that's fine too. He's obviously not on that same wavelength with her where it takes precedence in his artwork. But yeah, I would have loved to. Woes of the World, no name on that would have been crazy.
Yeah.
And I just want to hear her just say socialism on wax because
I mean, straight
nobody fucking does it. Every
Socialism,
single
sister.
every fucking rapper that we hear, the majority of them are just neoliberal subjects like the rest of the world, like the rest of us, trying to make that money and do that thing.
Yeah.
And not every critique needs that, but I did kind of want a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean,
But the songs also have deep things to discuss about the black experience,
Yeah.
about hair texture and how you are, and their relationship with God, and how deeply religious a lot of black Americans are with the Abrahamic religions in general.
Yeah.
Whether it's Christ or Allah, is like, it's something interesting to think about, and there is a lot to say about that. I'm not sure if like a Professor Sky did it or whatever, but I think that this album allows for that type of deeper critique.
yeah. I was gonna say that line about I could sell Jesus Christ an NFT. I was like, yeah. I was like, I mean, basically, I get it. Like, you could sell like something worthless, completely
Yeah.
worthless. Yeah, I get that, but I found that was funny.
Yeah, there's so many good. In fact, put some of your favorite bars in the comment section. I would love to hear that,
Yeah.
and I'll respond too. And what's messed up is I always complain about lyrics not being available. I bet you Saba fans have
that's
cleaned it up,
definitely
and
gonna
I
be
could
on
have.
Genius.
It's on Genius.
Yeah,
All
I
of it's on
definitely could have.
Genius,
I
yeah.
definitely could have went there and found that. But to be
Yeah.
honest, I was happy that you were going to mic it, and I was also happy that I was just going to. I was like, I'm gonna freestyle this like Jet usually do, and see how I do with that. But I would have loved to have more bars because.
I got a couple.
Oh my God, the examples, like
There's like a whole run in one of the songs. He's like, walk like I'm in the league. I made a winery out of hydrants in the street. Like Christ, I wash my enemies' feet. Let them step wrong and they amputees. Cash in hand, know it'll be a casualty. So I'm running up the band like an athlete. So like that whole run. No pun intended. Like where he's just using imagery of like body movements as parts. That's just tough, you know? Like it's crazy.
And the album is absolutely littered with like these fucking 8-bar runs of interworking these ideas together. It's nuts. I should just pull up the lyrics now because I could definitely be like,
or even when he started a song, he's like, if you see someone always winning, he not gambling, he's cheating. And that's just straight up just like this Malcolm X, you know, like in the biography. So I was like, yo, like, you know, I fuck with shit like that, you know. And then there's that one song, I forget the song title right now, but he's like, but know that I make niggas favorite rappers sound like average Joes, and the beat is by the actual GOAT. Y'all be so caught up on the hype, y'all gave the Grammy out to, you know,
Chaperone.
Everyone suspects it's that. And
it is. It has to be. It fits in the syllables. And,
yeah, so it's cut out. It's cut out in the
30
song.
second chop. Which one was that?
Yeah,
I think that might be 30.
It's
No, maybe it's
1.5.
Okay,
1.5.
1.5. Okay.
Max 1.5.
Okay, see, I don't know who that person is.
So it's a pop
People have
star.
mentioned it. Yeah, I've seen a picture. I actually thought it was like, I don't know what I thought it was. I thought it was an actor for a minute.
She's like very influenced by like drag culture.
I've seen the
and stuff,
like super rosy red blush or whatever they call that part of makeup. Yeah.
I mean, but like to be honest, I'm not Saba, but if I was Saba, I would have just kept the line and fuck it, you know. But like, I understand, I understand why he cut it out.
There's a degree of like, hey, this is what's going on, but like no personal slight against Chaperone.
It also,
Chaperone's not like a nepo baby. She's not from like a wealthy family or whatever. I have some suspicions as to how like meteoric her ascent was, but she's a great performer. I have no.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
I don't think it was like Saba trying to start beef with the biggest pop star in the world.
That'd be funny though.
It would be funny.
But you know,
that also distracts. That distracts from the album. It doesn't really mean anything. And when you have something like that, just a simple bar, it could very easily turn into
like a whole thing. You're right.
Fan bases warring with each other that has nothing to do with like the actual intention of the artist.
And then it becomes reductionist, like we were talking about. But what I will say is the censoring was a very good idea, and I think part of it is just like, fuck it, why change up the whole line? Just cut that shit out, because the rest of that shit flowing anyways, you know. And like, to be honest, rap is rap, you know. Sometimes you got to put those lines in, you know, even if you got to let the other person like fill in the dots. You feel me? So
I heard somebody else mention in like one of the group chats or whatever a Macklemore strays, but maybe somebody thought that the Chaperone Macklemore would have worked, but it doesn't,
right, because of the Grammy situation.
Yo, Loki,
the Kendrick.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yo, Loki, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
Kendrick did that on one of his songs, right? When he was beefing Drake, he like put a mute on the Born Sinner thing.
I guess
he was like something like he cut out the line. Everyone was like theorizing that it was like, I made the Born Sinner like apologize, some shit like that. You know, I got an apology out of the Born Sinner. Anyways, so yeah, people are like, but he cut the whole thing.
It's happened a lot. People cut it out, and it's just like it's fun to kind of think about it a little bit, but as long as you don't take it too far and try to project into the art too much.
Fun versus like trying to turn it into a question of fandom. I do want to take a moment to appreciate all of the features on this record.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
A lot of great features. I mean, MFN Mello.
Motherfucking Mellow.
Like Joseph Chilliams is on there, Gene Doe's on there. I'm not familiar with every artist on here. I don't know who Love Mansui is. It's my first time hearing them.
Love Mansui, he's Canadian, man.
Hey, shouts
Canada
out.
born. He's an R&B singer. Very cool.
Kelly Rowland and Raphael Sadiq, obviously.
Madison McFerrin carrying on the great McFerrin lineage. The McFerrin family have been so vital to black music for like 100 years
seriously?
now.
I didn't know who she was.
Yeah. So
I know
her grandfather, Robert McFerrin, I believe, was the first black singer to sing in the Metropolitan Opera. So like one of the great black American singers.
Yeah.
Her father, the son of Robert McFerrin, Bobby McFerrin. Legendary jazz, one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. You probably know him for Don't Worry Be Happy, but he has a million other like Bobby McFerrin, among people who know jazz, might not even know Don't Worry Be Happy. This is someone who's an all-time icon. Madison McFerrin's sick. Her brother Taylor McFerrin is also fucking incredible.
I saw the name and I was like, oh, that's funny, related to one of the greatest artists of all time, but that's actual family. That's wonderful.
It's the lineage. It's the lineage. And Taylor McFerrin is incredible too. Like his album Early Riser from about a decade ago. One of my favorite albums of the 2010s. Like, really, really incredible family of musicians.
I was gonna tap in because I was looking at her discography and I was just looking through like the credits and I was like, damn. she produces all of her own stuff. I'm like, okay, shorty. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fuck with you, you know.
That's
So, yeah.
one
Also,
of the great
Smino.
American musical family. That's Smino.
I mean, yes.
Well, I
Smino.
don't mean to cut you off. Well, one of the
I
great
mean-
American music families for sure. I didn't know that they were related, and that makes it even iller. To
Sorry,
me.
who?
No,
Oh,
the
the
McFerrins.
Oh,
The
okay,
McFerrins.
okay, yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know they were related. I just thought that okay, that's a good, cool last
Yeah.
name to have. You know what I mean?
What? Yeah.
But yeah, the Shmino shit at the end, man. That's one of the best songs
Bro,
on the
like
album for sure. Too.
that verse is
Beautiful.
crazy. Yo. And also, it's funny you mentioned that Saba, like, you were talking about, like, antisocial before.
Yeah.
And he mentions on the song, he's like, I'm antisocial and shit. But yeah, the features are awesome, man, all around, you know.
Fresh Waters, True. A lot of people that I'm not very familiar with. But
These are all
yeah.
people in, like, the Pivot Gang, so Saba's group. So
sick.
Fresh
Right.
Waters, Motherfucking Mellow, and Joseph Chilliams.
Okay.
Actually, Joseph Chilliams is Saba's brother.
Okay,
Oh.
what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Tight.
then there were two other members that passed
OG,
away.
OG. I don't know how you pronounce that name, but like
OG.
OG?
Yeah.
they're on like
Yeah.
3 or 4 of the tracks on the album.
Oh yes, Ogie. Yeah.
Ogie.
I think
Yeah.
it's Ogie. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but actually, this kind of goes back to the whole thing with like No ID kind of mentoring. Still, I don't know if you want to consider this album like an extension of that mentorship, but I want to say OG for now. But she has an album that's completely produced by No ID. Actually,
Okay.
So I believe that that's the connection between her and Saba on this album is just through No ID. So
Do you know if she's also from Chicago or
I didn't say.
because obviously like you see there's a lot of Chicago on this
Yeah,
album.
she must
right?
be. I
And
feel like she
ID's from
must be.
Chicago. And it's part of that
Yeah,
broader
yeah.
like
I feel like it
Chicago
must be.
musical
Yeah,
canon
yeah.
that we're seeing like unfolding here. So
Yeah, but yeah, she's on a couple of the songs, and even is this the last song, right?
Yes.
Or- you know, at the end of this song, going back to that whole like Saba-esque like kind of feel, the way the song ends with like OG or Ogie singing, it reminds me of the end of Prom King.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it kind of made me feel like almost the parallels were somehow uncanny to me. But I think maybe I'm just reading into it too much. But I really felt like that, you know, listening to it.
I mean, I think one thing that we really need to highlight, and I've kind of gone on this screed a few times now, is that we're in this kind of state in hip hop and just broadly in like the larger musical mainstream conversation where like the album is just a vehicle to deliver streams, right? Where it's
Yeah.
just like you release an album with 25, 30 songs
Yeah.
over an hour and a half, and it's all about just getting numbers up. But
Maximizing.
the album is still like such an important vehicle through which we
Yeah.
can consume and understand music. And I think what makes this album so remarkable among everything else we've spoken about today is the fact that it's very clear that to Saba the album is still maybe the most important thing. You know, the album is a complete work. It is a private collection. It's not just like, all right, here's the drop.
Yeah.
You know, here's your 25 songs to
Yeah.
chew on. Get my algo
Put
going.
5 of them on a playlist. We're gonna do the same and run
Yeah.
the numbers up. Yeah.
Get them shit on TikTok and shit. Nah, I agree with exactly what you're saying, and that's one of the reasons why I really like Saba and I consider him to be one of my I wouldn't even call it like my idol, just like a role model. I feel like in a weird way, people of the lineage of like Smino and like Saba, Noname, like those kind of people just feel like elder siblings almost to me, the kind of like the rap game sense, you know? I look at what they're doing and I think about how I can apply it in my own stuff. And a lot of people have told me over, you know, the last year or so of me working on my album, people have said, why are you making an album? Just release singles, bro. Every month you just got to release a single. Just keep
Those
releasing
people are
singles.
fucking whack.
It's
Hit me up next time someone tells you. I'll come over and slap the shit out of them right now.
Ankle pick.
But I hate to
Ankle
say it,
pick.
that's the way these fucking like companies, these streaming sites want it to be. But I've always been of the idea or the notion that like albums are supposed to be a thing, you know? That's how people can understand where you're coming from. They can get a like almost like a vibe check of who you are as a person, you know? So to me, that's what an album is, and I'm rocking with that 100%. I love this album, and yeah.
I like Saba a lot. I will continue to be a huge fan of his work, him as a person. At least the way he comes across in his music is somebody that I have no problems supporting and putting on other people who may not be interested in, I don't know, fucking KVI. You know, this is this is obviously an album that I put on to most of my family, because most of my family don't fuck with the weird shit like that. But you know, they could rock with this and they could enjoy this for all the same reasons that they enjoy like Simba or J. Cole even, or you know, those other cats. And yeah, Saba is just on another level than virtually every other rap nigga out there. Like an uncanny kind of incredible indelible style that he owns, and just a master wordsmith, poet, artist. It's this album is clearly one of the most phenomenal listens of the year.
Yep.
I don't know. Did I mean, sure, Pitchfork did it. Did it get like, it had to get best new music probably, right? Like
probably.
I mean, it's so fucking good. This is like, I imagine if I was like a Pitchfork review, this has got to be like a 8.3, 8.5 for them, something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just no skips. It's such a variety of sounds, so much depth in meaning, so much high level production, high level lyricism. This one is fucking nuts.
It's like what, 40
It's 44 minutes.
41 minutes
41,
and 41. Yeah. And it just loops perfectly. That last song finished and it can just go right back to the beginning, and I'm already back in there. And that's something that I've really come to appreciate recently with albums. You know, if it can just loop around seamlessly, I'm gonna check it out again. You feel me? So yeah, what are your favorite tracks?
Easily West Side Bound 4.
Yep.
A few songs, and it's a hard toss up between quite a few others, but maybe Head Rap or Woes of the World.
Okay. All right.
Head Rap is definitely my favorite. Crash and maybe a few songs. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, bro. For me, it's if I had to choose just top 3, She Called It, a few songs, West Side Bound 4. If I had to choose a 4th, Breakdown. But yeah, She Called It. Wow. That's nah. Especially, can you play that real quick? Yeah. Like just from the jump. Yeah.
See, I want to put this on my list now too. I'll be forgetting.
And I gotta say, sorry, there's one other song. I forgot which one. This one.
I thought you said Chop.
Yeah. So the bass just starts so slow. And it just picks up like that, bro. That shit is fucking fire. I love that shit. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. An incredible album. Secret House Against.
Yeah.
Oh, shouts out to our patrons. Like, you know, you want to join the Patreon, give us a like, comment, subscribe, etc. That's all great. Shouts out to our patron Liam, who has been blowing me up during this whole thing, being like, yo, let me into the Discord, bro. I would give you guys $1 a month. I see you, Liam. I fucking see you.
What? Why can't he join?
He's in. He's cool.
Oh, okay.
Big love to Liam. He's dope. But yeah,
Yo,
I see you, bro.
Yeah. Hey, yo, speaking of Discord, Lily, please come back to Discord. We miss you out there, man. Come back. All right. Yeah.
Secret House.
Where we come from, you can't be no weak one. That poke a hole in a nigga like a Capri Sun. I need that.
That's crazy.
Ain't shit special. This is every